with having Chanukah last week, we didn't get to do our class about the Chodesh, about the month. And previous month we did a class about the power of the month of Kislev. So now we're going to do a class about the power of the month of Tevet. And Bezrat Hashem, every month we'll do a class about the month and what do we have to learn from that, and how do we have to take advantage of the month, because every Sunday we have a class about Parashat HaShavua, and again, and I always repeat and I say that the class is for me to take something out of it and apply it to my life, and not to just sit and listen to some nice story and move on. The point from the Torah is any part of the Torah that I learn, anything that the Torah comes to present to me, is for me to take it, to apply it to my life, to be able to elevate my soul, to refine myself, to refine my attributes and my character traits, and to do something with it. And if I don't do, then I'm basically wasting my time, because I did not come here to the world just to sit and schmooze. I came to the world to refine my soul, to refine my body, to serve God. And the Torah, Baruch Hashem, gives us all the tools in order to do that. So the same way that we learn about the weekly parasha, then in the Chodesh, in the month, there's also a lot of messages and a lot of things that we need to concentrate on, because every month has a certain power, has a certain character trait, and we can tap into it and use it and refine it. And every month signifies something different. So now we're in the month of Tevet, only because Chanukah was last week, so we didn't get to do a class. But Bezrat Hashem, today is your birthday? Rosh Chodesh Tevet? Oh, in Tevet. So you have to stay tuned and listen very carefully to this class, because every person, whatever month they're born in, so the character trait of that month is really connected to them, and they need to refine something, and it's not by chance when a person is born. It's a precise, exactly the birth date of the child. That's why it's extremely not good to let the doctors intervene with the birth of the child. And in our generation, right away, let's make an operation, let's induce you, let's inject you with all sorts of hormones and so forth. And Baruch Hashem, I have 6 kids, and every time my wife is 2 weeks late, she pushes it all the way to the end. And every time we have the same issue with the doctors, you gotta go to a cesarean, it's dangerous, and we gotta induce you, and we gotta push it out, and we always tell the doctor the same thing. They all come out. Nobody stayed in there. So the last one came out, this one will come out too. Don't worry. So, of course, when it comes to a life-threatening situation, then you want to use the advice of the doctors. But in many cases, they just want to be safe, they don't want to be sued, and they want more money by operating. So it's extremely not smart to play around with the birth date, because the birth day and the date and the hour, everything is extremely precise, and you know, a lot of people, they go by the astrology about the month or the date. It's so precise that it also depends what the hour of the day, if it was in the morning hours, night hours. It's precise till the second.
What about a convert?
Convert, there's no difference. Oh, you're meaning because when they converted?
Birth, it's a new soul.
So, but they're getting it's a birth of, they're just getting a new soul. They're not getting a new body. So, okay, that's a little bit more.
So are the traits more similar to the actual birthday?
The thing is that you do get a new soul, and a lot of things changes. So, but I don't want to stop to talk about that. I somehow sidetracked about the birthday because of the month. But it's a good question, and you know, Bezrat Hashem, we should make a whole class on it, because we will start making a lot of classes for converts and Bnei Noach and Noahides, because there's so much questions for them. But since I don't want to totally sidetrack from our topic, so the birthday is extremely important, and the day of the month has a lot of meaning. The Zohar talks about it in many places. And if you were born in the first half of the month, in the Excuse me?
You are going to have class tonight?
Tonight, yeah. Tonight we're having a class. So, not to get totally sidetracked from our topic, we're talking about the month of Tevet and what we can achieve, and we want to learn the character traits of the month and how I can use that for my own self-growth. So the month is Tevet. The sign of the month is Gdi, which is a Capricorn, and the tribe that is connected to the month is the tribe of Dan, and the star that's connected to the month is Shabtai, which is Saturn. And each one of them, they have to do something with the month. It's connected to the month. Now, some say that the month of Tevet is not a good month, and they take that from the Zohar, that in the Zohar in Parashat Shmot, when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, it says that his mother Yocheved, v'tatzpinehu shlosha chodeshim, that she hid him for 3 months. So the pshat, the simple explanation is that she didn't want the Egyptians to come and take him, because all the boys that were born had to be thrown into the Yaor. So she hid him. Tatzpineo, tzafun, is something that is hidden. So the simple explanation that she just hid him. But the Zohar says tatzpineo shlosha chodeshim, 3 months, is because 3 months of the year the Shekhinah is not revealed. It's actually removed. And these 3 months, we don't have the protection, so to say, of the Shekhinah. And these 3 months are the month of Tammuz, which is the sign is Cancer, the month of Av, when the sign is Leo, and the month of Tevet, which the sign is Capricorn. And these 3 months are considered not good months. So Yocheved, she hid Moshe Rabbeinu that these months are not going to affect him. That's where a lot of people learn that the month of Tevet is not a good month. And soon we're going to talk about why people also learn that it's not a good month. And the thing is that in anything you can see the good and you can see the bad. So I just mentioned that the tribe of the month is the tribe of Dan. Dan comes from the word din, judgment. So in the month of Tevet, judgments are very, very powerful. That's why a lot of people take from that again, that the too much judgments is not good, too much dinim. On the other hand, you have to have the attribute of gvura, of dinim, you have to have the severity, so you can take anything negative and transform it into something positive. But when you learn on the month itself, then there's a few character traits of the month that people take from that it's not a good thing. Now, one of the things where we take that the month is not a positive month is that we know that we have 70 powers to our nefesh. It's called kochot nefesh. So we have 70 powers of them. But we also know that the nefesh, it has senses. It has 12 senses to the nefesh. You have 70 powers for the nefesh. Nefesh is the soul. It's the lowest part of the soul. It's the part that we mainly interact with and the part that we have to refine. It's not the neshama, it's not the ruach, it's the lowest part that is called nefesh. So the nefesh has 70 powers and 12 senses. Now, the book of Yetzirah, which is the oldest book of Kabbalah, that's from what we know, Adam HaRishon wrote it, but the book is more, it's meyuchas, it's connected to Avraham Avinu. The sources say that Adam HaRishon actually wrote it, and then he passed it on. He gave it to his son Shet, who gave it then to Noach, who gave it then to Shem, who gave it later on to Yefet, and then somehow down the generations it came to Avraham Avinu. Of course it came the information, not the book, and Avraham Avinu compiled it. So Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation, is attributed to Avraham Avinu, but this is the oldest and the most original Kabbalah book that we have. It's a very thin book. You would expect like a book that is full with thousands of pages. It's a very, very thin book that when you read it, you don't understand one word what it means. It's all like kind of gibberish. But in regards to the month of Tevet, it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himlich et haolam ba'ot ayin, I'll translate in a minute, berogez gdi, בעולם וטבת בשנה וכבד בנפש. So it says like this, the Kadosh Baruch Hu crowned the world with the letter Ain, Rogas, with anger, Capricorn, Tevet bashana, this is the month of Tevet, the kaved banefesh. That's what it's talking about. So we know that the letter of the month is the letter Ain. The sign is Capricorn, but that came with what's called Rogas, with anger. And that's referring to the month of Tevet. And it's the organ that corresponds to the month is the liver, and the nefesh is in the liver. Now we know, according to the Gemara, that the liver is full of blood. That's where all the keasim, all the anger is. It's all concentrated in the liver. And the liver is the only organ, or more to say, the only piece of the body that it's almost impossible to kosher. Because it has so much blood in it, you can't really kosher the liver. The only way really to do it is to cut it and to barbecue it. But any other way, there's a very good chance that it's not kosher, just because it's soaked with so much blood. So we see from the Sefer Yetzirah that we have 4 elements that have to do with the month. Now we want to see what is that going to do with us and how is that connected to me. So the main thing we want to concentrate on right now is on the sense that is called Rogas. Rogas means anger. And this is the sense that comes in this month. This is the negative power of this month that is called Rogas. Rogas is anger, and this is the main thing that is the negative character trait of this month. Is the character trait of anger. But anger can be also a very good anger. The Zohar says, Yesh Rogas ve'yesh Rogas. There's Rogas that is very negative, and there's Rogas that is very positive. The sages in the Gemara says, Le'olam adam yargiz yetzer tov al yetzer ra. Rogas can be also a very positive thing. Rogas, again, I don't want to keep translating it. Rogas is anger. It's when a person has anger. So we have anger that is very negative, and there's anger that is also positive. And you can be very angry at your yetzer hara and arouse that anger against the yetzer hara. So we want to concentrate mainly on the negative part, because that's more to do with me and what do I need to refine. So we know that the positive anger is something that is good in me, and the negative anger is something that is bad in me. This, we learned that from the relationship between Esav and Yaakov. Esav is considered the negative anger, and Yaakov is the positive anger. Now, the father of Yaakov is Yitzchak. The forefathers are compared to Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, the 3 attributes. So Avraham Avinu was Chesed, was kindness. He was too much kind. So Yitzchak came in the complete opposite, and Yitzchak is coming from Gvura, from severity. Why? Because Yitzchak had to be completely the opposite of Avraham Avinu. But Yaakov came to be Tiferet, the beauty, making the connection between the kindness and the severity, between the Chesed and the Gvura. So Yaakov, who's opposing Esav, is the positive part of the anger. And we need to have this severity, this judgment, this, so to say, anger in us, but it has to be applied to something positive. The point is that to take this anger that I have in me, and we all have an anger in us, and to not to cancel it, chas v'shalom. You can't cancel or diminish your character traits. And you cannot cancel the senses of your nefesh. You cannot do that. Don't even try to do that. My point is to refine it and to direct it to a positive place. Now, in anger, there are many different levels in anger. And to kind of understand what does it mean that there's levels in anger, so of course it's a joke, but it will kind of make the point across. That there was a professor, and he wanted to teach his students about the levels of anger, and he told them, now I'm going to show you the first level of anger. So he picks up the phone, he calls a random number, and he says, a person answers and he says, hello, is Chaim there? So the person says, listen, there's no Chaim here. So he tells him, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm looking for Chaim. So the guy tells him, sir, there's no Chaim here, please don't call here, and he hangs up. So he tells him, okay, this was the first level of anger. He wasn't really angry, but you saw there was a little bit of a negative tone in his voice. So that's the first level of anger. Now I'm going to show you the next level of anger. He picks up and he presses the redial button. The same guy answers and he says, hello, can I speak to Chaim? The guy says, I told you there's no Chaim here. He hangs up the phone. So he tells him, okay, this is second level of anger. Now he already raised his voice. Now let me show you the third level of anger. And he calls the same person again. He presses redial. The person answers, says, hello, can I speak with Chaim? Is Chaim home? And the guy lashes at him. I told you not to call here. There's no Chaim here. And he starts cursing him and screaming and hangs up the phone. So he says, okay, so this is the third level of anger. When he's already out of his vessel. He's already screaming. He's already yelling. He's already cursing. And he says, okay, I'm not going to show you the fourth and the fifth and the sixth level of anger. So one of the students wanted to be a smart student. So he told the professor, let me show you what's the fourth level of anger. And the student calls the individual and he says, hello, my name is Chaim. Did anybody call? So, of course, this is all a joke, but just to get from that the point, what does it mean there's levels in anger? Excuse me? He wanted to show like in a joke, what's the fourth level of anger? So the student called and told the person, I'm Chaim, did anybody call? Of course, we don't want to know, where we don't know what happened. The thing is, this is a joke. I'm just taking from the joke, how do you say, musar eskel, what you can learn from that. What you can learn from that is there's many levels of anger. And there's certain levels of anger that you don't really get upset. You get maybe aggravated, you get annoyed. Sometimes the level of the anger is from frustration, or the anger can be from being worried. I mean, I can get angry at my kid because I was worried at him. He didn't call, he was gone for 2-3 hours. I was worried, it's not responsible. So anger can be measured in many different ways. The point is that we all have anger in us, and if you think that you don't have anger in you, then check again, because we all have anger in us. Why? Because the anger is controlled in our liver. And the majority of the blood of the body is in the liver. And the nefesh is in the blood. Now, we mentioned a few minutes ago that the nefesh has these senses. One of the senses is called Rogas, and that sense is concentrated mainly in the liver. That's why we see in this month that also the organ that corresponds to the month is the organ of liver. The point from that is that we all carry some type of anger. The Gemara says that when a person is angry, when he really loses his anger, if he's a smart person, he loses his wisdom. If he was a prophet, he would lose his prophecy. And it even says that when a person is angry, kol minei geinam sholtim bo. If a person gets to a level that he's really losing his temper, then he's becoming a chariot to any type of entity coming from Gehenom, from hell, to get dressed into that person. That's why we see that when a person gets angry, usually his face gets angry. All the blood goes from the liver to the head. So anger is a very bad character trait when it's not in control. To a point that even our sages say that if a person is angry, it's like as if he's doing idol worship. Why? Because the anger can only come from one basic thing, and that is our ego. If a person doesn't have an ego, then he doesn't get ever angry, because he doesn't think he deserves anything, or he doesn't have expectations, or he doesn't think of himself so high, so he doesn't get angry. That's the main part where it comes from. Now, most people don't like hearing it. Most people don't like hearing it. I have an ego. Yeah, just by you reacting like that, it means you have an ego. Because if you don't have an ego, ego is not, ego sounds very, very bad. So I might say it in a more nicer way. It's called yeshut. Yeshut is something, I'm something. So a selfness. Ego is a harsh word, although if a person gets upset when you tell him you have an ego, then he has a problem with his ego. And we learn from Avraham Avinu, who was a very, very humble man, and he said about himself that I'm like ani afar va'efer, I'm like the dust and the sand of the earth, I'm nothing. And the more a person humbles himself, meaning he's diminishing his ego, then by default he doesn't has any anger in him, because somebody curses at him on the street, so he says, okay, whatever, I probably deserve it, or I did something wrong, or anything that happens doesn't make him angry, because he doesn't think much of himself. Now again, I know a lot of people raise eyebrows and they're not happy to hear that they have a problem. Nobody wants to hear that they have a problem. If you're going to come to a person and tell him you have a problem, you are irresponsible, you're always late, I can't trust you, I'm not talking about problems now that you're abusing substance and stuff like that. Any individual that you're going to tell him straight to the face you have a problem, right away there's going to be an opposition. Right away, well, why are you telling me that? You have a problem too. So most people don't like their problems thrown in their face. The reality is that we spoke about it the other day, about the concept of Kriyat Shema Lamita, is when a person does something that is called Cheshbon Nefesh. Cheshbon Nefesh is like a self-accounting. The Ramchal, in the book Mesilat Yesharim, he says a person has to do once a day what's called Cheshbon Nefesh. And I'm mentioning it because we spoke about Kriyat Shema Lamita on Tuesday. The Baal HaTanya says the best time, the auspicious time to do this Cheshbon Nefesh is Kriyat Shema Lamita. That you sit at the end of the day and you're saying, how was my day? Was I 100%? Now, the point is that when a person does Cheshbon Nefesh, he's able to correct what is wrong in him. Now, amazingly, if you make a pie and you divide the pie into the signs of the 12 signs, then there's always going to be one in front of the other. You follow me? You know what I'm saying? Imagine how you make a circle and you cut it like a pie and you divide it into 12 signs. So there's always going to be one sign that is across to the other sign. That's the nature of it. So the one that's going to be in front of Tevet is the month of Tammuz. And in regards to the signs, it's going to be one side Tevet will be Capricorn and the other side Tammuz is Cancer. Now in regards to the sense of the Nefesh, Tevet is Rogas, is anger, but Tammuz is the sense of seeing, Re'iyah, which means that they always come together. If any month that you take, if you're turning in the pie, then the one month that is in front of the other month, the senses of the Nefesh will always work together. So where do we see the connection between the anger and Re'iyah? Re'iyah means to see. Now, the teachings of Chassidut explains to us why did Hashem create two eyes. When you really want to go to the depth of the creation. So a lot of organs we have two, and some of the organs we have one. So Hasidic philosophy explains why do we have two eyes. One eye comes from the power of Chesed, and that's the eye that is looking inside. And one eye comes from the side of Gvura, and that's the eye that's looking outside. So there's two directions of vision, of looking at something. When I'm using the eye that is looking outside, it comes from the attribute of Gvura, of severity, of judgment, and that's the eye that judges everything, in most cases, wrong. That's why our sages say you should always judge a person favorably. You should always see the good in everything, because usually we use our eye that comes from the attribute of Gvura, and our eye is very judgmental. He said this, look how she's dressed, look what they did this, look at that. The eye is constantly judging, because it comes from the attribute of Gvura, which is Din. Din is judging. Now, I want to empower and to use the eye that is looking inwards. that comes from the attribute of chesed, of kindness. And this is the I that has to make the self-assessment of myself. Now I mentioned before that in the book of Yetzirah, it says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu, he crowned the world at the month of Tevet with the letter Ain. Now every month has a certain letter. Last month when we learned about the month of Kislev, I told you that the letter is Samech. And we spoke about the whole Inyan of Samech, of the circle. So the letter of the month of Tevet is the letter Ain. And this comes from the concept of what's called Ma'ayan. Ma'ayan, Ain, is corresponding to Ma'ayan. Ma'ayan is a wellspring. And the power of a wellspring is that it is hidden very deep into the ground, but it brings out the water. So the power of Ain is that we have inside a wellspring, a certain wellspring, and it constantly comes out. The natural way of this wellspring is to come out, is to bring out this anger. My point is to look with my eye into my own, to the depth of me, and instead of the anger coming out, is refining it, that the anger is going to be directed to a completely different way. Now the only way for me to do that is only if I do this once a day, this cheshbon nefesh, and I don't know exactly the translation. I think self-assessment is the most right way to translate cheshbon nefesh. And cheshbon nefesh is you look inside yourself and you make an account, and you do it in a very honest way. Excuse me? Introspect?
No, interesting.
Introspection.
Another word for
Okay. But the point is that once a day a person wants to do that. If you do it twice a day or 3 times a day, you might be too harsh on yourself. 1 time a day is enough. And we take the advice of the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe, to do it at the end of the day. You do it when you say Kriyat Shema Lamita. You take 5 minutes out of your day, and you make an assessment. How was I the whole day? Now, if you do it very, very honest, then you find that in most of the cases that you thought that you are right, you actually weren't right. That's why I gave the example on Tuesday with Kriyat Shema Lamita, that you say, you know what, in the argument that I had with my wife, I raised my voice and I was wrong, she's right. And when I was rebuking my child, I was a little bit too harsh, I used not nice words. And when I talked with my boss or with my employee or whatever, I said not nice things. The only way to do it is if you move the ego away, because your ego is going to come and tell you, oh, you're 100% right. You should use this false language right now. You should have screamed even more. You are right. But that's just the ego coming and telling you that you are right. And that's what brings out this anger out of you, because if you analyze a situation that you ran into during the day and there's an argument, something that make you upset, then if you really look into it, you have to see what made me upset here. In any situation, I mean, if passes a day that you don't get upset, then it's considerably a good day. I know people that they get upset 10 times a day, 20 times a day. Every phone call gets them upset. Every situation gets them upset. They open the news, they get upset. Every little thing, they stand in line. Somebody was standing, you're 2 inches closer to them. Why are you so close to me? And right away they get upset. Unfortunately, most people all day long they're dealing with this emotion of anger, which really, where is this anger coming from? If a person is constantly dealing with this anger, they have to realize where this anger is coming from. And that's why I gave the example of these different levels of anger. You can get angry for something that aggravates you, and to a point that it doesn't affect you. Sometimes you get angry that you completely go out of your vessel. That you go berserk, you curse, you say hurtful words, you throw things, you break things. This is already a level that you lose what's called the tzelem eloki. You lose your godly image in you. You're not a human being at that point. That's why our sages say, Kol minei genam shultim bo. He's not a human being anymore. So there's a very big difference when you get angry from something small, and you get angry from something that comes from worry or stress and stuff like that. Okay, that's one part of anger. But there's also anger that is not in control, something that you completely lose your control. Now, if you lose control in your anger, then that's already in such a high level of anger that you really break your human vessel, so to say. So a person needs to do this self-assessment, this cheshbon nefesh once a day, by taking his eye. It's called the right eye, because the left eye is the eye that judges, that looks outside, that looks into the world and judges everything. Because really, why am I getting so upset? Because I judge. Did you see how she talked at me? Did you see how that person grabbed the parking spot? I was standing here. So using the left eye is how you judge the world. Of course, at some point you want to refine it, that you look at the world with your right eye. But the motion is of the right eye, the eye that comes from the attribute of chesed, is to look in me and to see where I was wrong. Because in 50% of the times of arguments or something that causes me to be angry, it's my fault. It's nobody else's fault. It's just I was not mature enough to accept the rebuke that I got or whatever it was. The point to take from that on the month of Tevet, the reason why I started by saying that a lot of people say that it's not a good month is because the power that is controlling this month is judgment. So it seems negative, and there's a power of severity. And in this month, we're all going to go in some way or another in some type of a nisayon, some type of a test of anger. And it can be every day, it can be 10 times a day, or even once a month. It doesn't matter if you were born on the month of Tevet, or if it doesn't matter. There's a certain atmosphere to the month. Every month has a certain atmosphere. So the month of Tevet has the atmosphere that there's severity, there's a lot of judgment. That's why you see next week we're going to have a fast, Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet. That's when the siege on Yerushalayim started. That's when there was a lot of judgments against the Jews. And we see that Bechlal in this month there's a lot of power of dinim. That's why also the color is red. You want to in this month really work on yourself that you're very aware of anything that has to do with anger. Now, anger is one of the worst character traits that we deal with. We have many other character traits that we deal with. Bezrat Hashem, I think next week we'll start the course about Tikkun HaMidot, the refinement of character traits. And anger is one of the first ones that births all the rest of the negative character traits. I explained in a couple of occasions that everything originates from a source. The highest character trait in the positive side is the character trait of Anava, of a person being humble. And if a person really empowers that character trait in him, then that will start birthing very positive character traits. But the one that opposes it, the leumat of the Anava, is geava, is pride. That's the top negative character trait there is. If a person is diminishing his geava, his pride, he starts refining that part of the negative side, then by default he will start refining himself. If a person is empowering the character trait of geava, of pride, right away what it will birth will be kas, which is anger, and sadness, which is atzvut. So the second level, the second generation of pride is anger. Because if I have a lot of geava, I have a big ego, and somebody said the wrong word to me, right? What will be the result? Anger. How dare you say that at me? Or it will hurt me in such a way that it will right away bring sadness. Then right away I'll be sad because that person said about me like this and like that. Now if I wouldn't have any geava, any pride, I would be like, okay, so maybe you're right. Let me do my hitbodedut and let me see. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am what you're saying. And we learned that from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the ultimate humble human being. As it says in the Torah about him, Moshe Rabbeinu haya ish anav mikol. He was the most humble person. Now, where do we learn how Moshe Rabbeinu was able to actualize his humbleness? As that we know the story in the Torah with Korach. Korach came to rebuke Moshe. Now, Korach, just that you have an idea, Korach was first of all in our terminology a billionaire. He was like a Bill Gates. It's like one of the richest people in the world. So it wasn't some guy approaching Moshe Rabbeinu. This you're talking about a billionaire, a powerful man coming and approaching the king. More than that, Korach was in the family of Moshe. He wasn't an outsider. He was from the family. More than that, Korach was a big Talmid Chacham. He was the head. When he came to rebuke Moshe, he came with 250 heads of Sanhedraot. Sanhedrin is a court. And he came with 250 of the heads of them. So Korach was not some average Joe. So Korach comes to Moshe and he starts telling him, who made you king? Well, are you deciding on yourself that you are the king? Who gives you this authority? And who give you an authority to appoint your brother to be a Kohen? And you're appointing your nephews to be this and that? And he starts arguing with Moshe. More than that, he comes and tells him, who made you so knowledgeable? He starts asking him all sorts of questions. If the talis is all blue, does it need tzitzis? If the house is full of books, does it need a mezuzah? Now you would think that the reaction of Moshe Rabbeinu will be, whoa, relax. Korach, relax. You know who you're talking to? I'm the king. Who do you think you are that you're talking to me like that? You know who I am? I took the Jews out of Mitzrayim. I opened the sea. I went up to the mountain. I brought the Torah. Sit quietly. Now you would think that that's how Moshe Rabbeinu will react. Instead, you know how Moshe reacts? It says in the Torah, "Vayipol al panav vayevk." He fell on his face and he started crying. Because he was thinking, maybe Korach is right. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe he's right. That's where you see his greatness. Instead of right away letting his ego, whoa, relax, I'm the king. Right away he takes a step back and he says, wait a minute, maybe I did something wrong. Right away he did cheshbon nefesh. Oh my gosh, maybe I did a mistake. Maybe I did something against the will of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's where you learn the power of anava, of humbleness, versus the power of ego. Ego, if Moshe Rabbeinu had a little bit of ego, right away he would back off. I'm the king. But since he was the complete opposite, he backed off and he says, wait a minute, maybe I'm wrong. So you take these two character traits of anava, of being humble, and geava, of pride, they oppose each other. Now, if we're concentrating on the negative parts, if I have geava, then somebody will say something to me, somebody will take my line in the supermarket, somebody will grab the parking spot, somebody will do something to me, ooh, right away, move, it's mine. I was here. Or that will be the anger. Or the other way will be like, right away, I fall into depression, upset, because that person said I don't look so good, or I'm dressed not nice, or whatever. The point to take from that is that we all carry this anger in us. Why? Because it's part of the senses of the nefesh. You cannot get rid of it. My point is to take this ayin. Ayin is first of all, we talked about the letter ayin. Then I said that the power that is in front of the rogas will be the power of re'iyah that also come. I is an ayin. I have to take this ayin and look inside me, in the wellspring of me. The ayin is the ma'ayan, is the wellspring. The ayin is also the eye. To look inside me, to be able to bring out, instead of this anger, is to direct the anger somewhere else. Amazingly, we see that the numerical value of the letter ayin is 70. Now there's a verse that we know, that we say, Nichnas yain, yatsa sod. When a person drinks wine, he starts spilling out all the secrets. Amazingly, we see that the gematria, the numerical value of the word yain, wine, is also 70, and the gematria of the word sod, secret, is also 70. Because I have the ability, if I look inside of me, what does it mean, nichnas yain yatsa sod? I need to look inside my own wellspring in order to me to bring something out. If I don't do it myself, it will come out by itself. That's where it will come out in anger. Because the anger is not directed to the right way. The anger has to be directed to a positive direction. I can take my anger that is in me, just direct it to the right place. To be angry at the Yetzer Hara that made me come late to the class. I should be angry at my Yetzer Hara that is bothering me from serving God. So that's where our sages come up from, and they say, "L'olam yargiz adam yetzer tov v'yetzer ra." You have to use this anger, but it has to be directed to a very positive place. So how do we really control our anger? There are many different things that one can do to control the anger, because anger is one of the most worst character traits of my soul. So just to cover a few remedies. I know people like all the remedies and the sgulot, even though I'm not into it. I rather just follow the Torah. But people like all the remedies that help you get to overpower things. So first of all, this has less to do with you, but our sages say that a very powerful thing to fight anger is the mitzvah of tzitzit. And our sages of Kabbalah say that when a person is angry, to take the kanaf, the corner, and to look at it, and it calms the person down. So since women don't wear tzitzit, and I don't recommend you to start wearing one, then you want to be a part of the mitzvah of tzitzit. So that's why we have the custom that when a couple gets married, the wife buys the tzitzit to her husband. And if you tzitzit, talit gadol, talit katan. But the point is that since you're not wearing a talis or tzitzit, then you want to participate in that mitzvah. So if you have a husband, you want to make sure that you maybe fold it to him, or you clean it to him, that you maybe put some money towards it, or more than that, to make sure your husband is wearing it. I know a lot of men that when they outside in the street, they wear the tzitzit. At home, they take it off. For a child, you can donate some tzitziot. In any event that you want to participate in that mitzvah one way or another. And if you don't have a child, you're not married yet, you chas v'shalom lo aleinu, a widow or divorced, then you can participate in the mitzvah. You can participate in the mitzvah of tzitzis, and tzitzis is very powerful. But one biggest remedy, if a person's suffering from a lot of anger problems, the remedy that I know of is to read the entire book of Tehillim. Because the entire book of Tehillim has 150 chapters. And the word kas has the numerical value of 150. So if a person has a lot of anger that cannot be controlled, the remedy is to sit for 3-4 hours and read the whole book of Tehillim. And you do that till you start calming your anger down. So that's not such an easy thing, but if you can, then you should try to do that. That's all. When we're going to do the course of Tikkun HaMidot, of the refinement of character trait, and we're going to stop on the midah of kas, I think we're going to have 10 classes just on that character trait, and we're going to dissect the whole thing. What I said today is a very general idea of kas. That's why I specifically said the joke with all the levels. Because kas can come from frustration. And anger can come from just selfness. And it can come from many different reasons. It also depends on the level of kas. A person can get upset and completely go out of his vessel. And a person just can be irritated. That's not really anger. So we're going to really dissect the whole character trait of kas, because it's one of the worst character traits, and it's one of the hardest to do tshuva for. Because when you are angry and you throw a word out of your mouth, that's it. You can't take the word back. And if you do a certain action when you're angry, and unfortunately when you're angry you don't control your actions. And you definitely don't control your mouth, and you don't control your thoughts, you don't control anything. You lose control. And whatever you spit out to the world, that's it, it's out in the world. You can't take the word back. So to do tshuva for kas is very, very hard. And there's a story in the Gemara, I don't want to sidetrack, but there's a story in the Gemara of a certain individual who came to his father and told him, it was the father, his Rebbe, I don't remember, and he told him, how can I do tshuva for kas, for anger? So he told him, every time that you are upset and you feel like getting angry, go to the door, take a nail and bang a nail in the door. Okay, so He comes to him after a week and he tells him, my whole door is full of nails. Bless you. So he tells him, what? Now what? So he says, okay. Now, every time that you are upset, pull out one nail. Okay. He comes back to him after a week and he tells him, my whole door is full of holes. Now what? So he says, now you have a problem, because that's how hard it is to do tshuva for anger, because now you have holes in the door and you can't cover the holes. So that's how hard it is to do tshuva for anger. When you're angry, you bang a nail in the wall. You make a hole in the universe. Then you want to do tshuva for it, assuming you pulled out that nail. Now you have a hole in the universe. You created a void. Now try to fix it. So anger is a very, very severe character trait. What we want to take from this shiur is that the negative part, the emotion of the month of Tevet is kas, is Rogas. Now I want to look in, first of all and most important, let's take into consideration that most likely you will be put into some type of a test this month of anger. You're either going to be put in the test 20 times a day, or something real big in that day, in this month. There's no black and white here. Don't wait every day for the moment. Try not to wait for the moment. But we know from our teachings that there's a very good chance that this month you're going to be presented with a situation that you're going to be tested, your anger, your rogas. And this test is mainly in the level of your emunah. Because the kas, where it ignites itself, is from lack of emunah. So the kas, the anger and faith goes together. Because if I have 100% faith in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, by default I'll be more humble, but I don't get angry so fast. Because when somebody curses me, or says something wrong, or hurts me, I understand it comes from the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so I don't get upset. We talked about it on Sunday, because we had a class about Parashat HaShavua, talking about how Yosef was able not only to forgive his brothers, but to take it to a next level that he supported them financially for the rest of their life. So, he could easily say, listen, I'm not angry, no hard feelings, get out of here. I don't want to see you ever again. That would make a lot of sense. Then he says, listen, I'm in a high level, I'm forgiving you, but I don't want to see you ever again. And I gave the example is that in a family, sometimes a family member annoys you, or you have a fight with that family member, you forgave that person. But every time there's a family reunion or some type of event, you just see that person's face, you get upset again. So you really didn't really forgive that person. Yosef took it to a next level. Not only they forgave the brothers, he told them, stay with me, and I'm going to support you for the rest of your life. So we mentioned in the class, how can it be that he completely changed it? Not only that he diminished his anger, that he was able to even give them, to repay them. That's only because his level of emunah, of his faith, was unbelievable. Because he says, it all came from Hashem. And we gave the example of the story that happened with David HaMelech, that at the time David always had problems, and there was a certain individual, his name was Shimei ben Gera, who came and he cursed David HaMelech. And at the time, the one of the ministers of the army was Avishai ben Tzruya, who right away pulled out his sword and wanted to cut his head off, and saying, oh, he cursed the king. And David HaMelech told him, no, relax. Hashem amar lo kalel. Hashem told him to curse. Don't do anything to him. So that's again only because of the level of emunah. So if I have a very high level of belief, of trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, things don't get me upset because I know it's Hashem that sent me that test. So this month, there's a very good chance you will be presented with some big test of emunah, a big test of anger, and that will be your test of the month. And Bezrat Hashem, we pray every day that we tell Hashem, don't bring me, Ve'al tavieni lidei nisayon. We say that every morning. We pray to our Kadosh Baruch Hu, don't put me in a test. Just leave me be. So we want to be left alone. Don't pray for the test. But what I need to concentrate in this month is that I need to take any anger that I have, whatever level it is. if it's in level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, you know what level your anger is to take this anger and to refine it, to direct it to a completely different place. And that can only be done if I use the power of Re'iyah, the Ain, the letter Ain, which is, again, the I is Ain, and to look in me, what did I do wrong? Where did I went wrong in this argument? And in every argument, they say it takes two to tango. In an argument, there's two sides, and both sides are always right. Even though you are 100% right always, you're never wrong, but the other side is also right. And the other side also has some truth to what they say. If I know in an argument to detect and to know where I was wrong, and I'm able to admit it, then that's where I humble myself. And the thing is that in most situations, you can find that you're not always right. And that can only be done when I really look inside myself and I do this cheshbon nefesh. If I don't do that, I'm only going to be running on ego. And I'm right, I deserve, I was here first, I'm more important than you. I want to get to a point that I want to take this power of this month, and we said the power of the month comes from judgments, comes from dinim. But I can take this judgment and use it in a very positive way, is to stop, judgment is severity, is gvura, is to stopping things. So I can take anything that is negative in my life. I'm eating too much, I'm sleeping too much, I pleasure too many things, I don't have control, I don't have self-control on this, I don't have self-control on that. I can take these judgments, I can take these dinim and put myself into some restrictions. So either way you're looking at it, I know I started in the beginning by saying that the month, a lot of people say it's a very bad month, but bad only because the motion and the character trait of the month is judgment. The most important thing to take from that is to be able to recognize inside myself the negativity and to refine it. I can't get rid of it. Don't try to get rid of your character traits. These are these 12 senses of our neshama, of our nefesh, and you cannot get rid of them. And if you try to get rid of them, they'll just come back stronger at you. You need to know how to refine them. And the way to refine it is to go into the wellspring of yourself and to analyze the situation 100% and to find in it where it's coming from the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a nisayon in my emunah. In most cases when I get upset, when it comes to anger, I'm presented with a test how much faith I have in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because all the effects of anger is all the worst things that one can do. Cursing, and talking not nice, and insulting another person, and doing the opposite of Avat Israel, sinat chinam. Everything, again, we're going to talk about the toladot, what births out of anger, and you see that most of the negative character traits that I have is coming from anger, which is coming from my ego, from my yeshut, from the me. How you see? Exactly. Not only a shoresh, we explained, you walked in a minute after I said that the everything originates from a certain source. And the highest character trait, the midah, the highest in the negative side is ge'ava. If a person has ge'ava, it will birth anger and sadness. These are the two midot, the character traits that will come right after ge'ava. So we talked about it before. We'll talk about it a lot more when we start learning the course about Tikkun HaMidot. But the point to learn from that is that I want to reach to the level of Anava, of humbling myself. The Ramban says, "Ashpel tatzmecha v'nasecha hamakom." Make yourself humble, put yourself in a very low place, and Hashem already will make you great. Which the opposite of the sadness is simcha. I mean, my entire being, I'm operating because I want to be happy. Everything that I do is searching for happiness. This is my nature. Our nature as human beings is to constantly, we're seeking after pleasures. And I know I keep repeating it, but we learn that also in the Tikkun HaMidot, because our nature What makes us operate is we are a creature of pleasures. We're constantly looking for pleasures, whether it's with eating, whether it's with vacating in beautiful places, wearing nice clothes. We're constantly looking for something that makes me have pleasure. And if I don't have that, then it causes some type of an emptiness. So I go and seek. So I need more money to buy more clothes and a nicer car and a nicer home. Why? Because I'm constantly after these little pleasures. But if I fulfill my soul with the ultimate pleasure, we spoke about it a couple classes ago, is that the motion of the nefesh, David HaMelech says, Tzama lecha nafshi. My soul has a certain thirst. Every thirst that I have, which will birth what's called te'ava, a desire for something, it's coming from the thirst of my soul. So my nefesh, not the neshama. Don't confuse the words. Neshama, ruach, nefesh. The motion of the nefesh is this thirst. The nefesh constantly wants to receive something. Now, if I don't control it, then it will birth te'avot, all these desires. And of course it will be negative te'avot. It's not going to desire sitting and learning Torah for 2 hours. It's going to desire a good cake. And it's going to desire another 3 hours of sleeping. And it's going to desire whatever pleasures that I can get. This is the desire the nefesh wants. I have to direct it that my nefesh will get fulfilled with Torah and mitzvot. Then I fulfill the thirst. So my nefesh is not running after these te'avot, these desires. So what makes me constantly function, so to say, is that I'm constantly running after these pleasures. What's called ta'anugot ha'olam. Now, this comes from the desire of being happy. It all originates from the point, from the shoresh, from the root of I want to be happy. We all want to be happy. Now, if you ask a person, for example, you catch a person in going to college, and he's going to learn to be a lawyer. You tell him, why do you want to be a lawyer? Oh, because I'll have a good job. Why do you want to have a good job? Because I'm going to have a lot of money. But why do you want to have a lot of money? Because I can buy a beautiful car. But why do you need a beautiful car? Oh, because it will make me happy. So if you backtrack, I gave one example out of many. If you backtrack of almost any action that you do, you'll reach to the source that you want to be happy. Because this is our nature. Our nature is to be constantly happy. Why? Because where my soul comes from, the shoresh, where my soul comes from, it's glued to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So I'm constantly happy. I see the master of the universe. My soul is constantly in this motion of happiness. So it's actually the word that it's talking about is not simcha, happiness, rather ta'anug. Ta'anug is pleasure. Because ultimately our soul, it lives off pleasure. And we know that La'atid Lavo, in Olam Haba, it's all about pleasure. Ta'anugot Olam Haba, the pleasures of Olam Haba. Now in Olam Haba, we're not going to sit with a martini or drive a Mercedes or wear a beautiful suit. The pleasure is going to be the wisdom of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Just being close to the Kadosh Baruch Hu will give our neshama this unbelievable pleasure. That there's no type of pleasure even in this world. That's why we see that the majority of the void of the world, where does it go to get the pleasure? From alcohol and drugs. Because the soul has such a void, it needs some type of pleasure. Then what will give kind of equal in this world the pleasure is only the substance of alcohol and drugs, mainly drugs. Because the drugs, what a drug does, there's certain screens that filter our neshama. Because right now if I wouldn't have these screens, I would see the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And probably I would faint just from their godly revelation. I would not be able to sustain right now. If right now a screen would be removed out of my existence, I would see some type of godliness, I faint on the spot. I cannot contain this godly revelation. And that's what drugs do. Drugs remove screens. That's why a lot of the drugs are hallucinogenic. How do you say? You get hallucinations. I can't say such a hard word. But a lot of the drugs, they make you hallucinate. It's not hallucination. It's a screen being removed. Suddenly you see a little bit more of the reality. So the effect that it does, what do you see? I'm not recommending the drugs now.
What reality?
The reality of godliness. Because you see physicality, and the physicality is in nature. The pleasure is a whole different thing. I'm not going to make a class now about drugs, but the drugs, what they do is they remove screens. So one screen will be that you start hallucinating, you see the actual reality. You see that the world is not existing from nature, that there's something more godly in it. And one screen that it would remove is this pleasure. You get this not normal pleasure from drugs, physical pleasure. Another screen will be that it numbs the person 100%. The person is in unbelievable depression. All he takes is one pill or one, again, I don't want to get into the description on it, but the drugs that drop the person down, they like heroin, for example, the person is numb 100%, then one screen, the screen of the reality of depression disappears. And then the person is just numb. So drugs, what they do is just remove screens. But really, our soul is constantly looking for happiness. And the only happiness, and again, the right word to translate it is not simcha, rather ta'anug. And we constantly need this ta'anug. Now, if I get it from Torah and mitzvot, then I don't have the thirst for anything. But if I don't get it from Torah and mitzvahs, then my nefesh is constantly going to run after these ta'anugot. That's why you see great tzaddikim, they don't eat chocolates. They don't eat, go to a tish of a rebbe. He doesn't eat from all the rogalach. It's not in his level even. He doesn't need that. It's a piece of dough with some sugar and chocolate in it. We see a pile of rogalach, ooh, jump on it right away, especially the one with the chocolates in there. Why? Because I need this te'ava. I need this ta'anug.
Why children eat more sugar than grown up?
I can't hear you.
The children need more sugar.
The children that should be more pure than us.
The children eat, they get...
More sugar and sweet things than
I'll tell you why. Because children don't have the level of what's called da'at. You have chokhmah, bina, and da'at. A child doesn't have da'at at all. So he doesn't know to differentiate between good and bad. How does the tree of knowledge called? It's a da'at. Good and bad. A child doesn't have da'at. So he doesn't know how to differentiate, this is good, this is bad. I have to tell him, this is bad, don't touch it. Now when he gets too much good, he doesn't know right now if it's good or not. It's tasty to him. The taste buds are working and it's yummy to him. That's it. Now, where do you see that they really don't have that? That a child will eat a pint of ice cream like that. Just the other day, I see my kid like this. Tell him, what happened to you? My stomach hurts me. Told him, why does your stomach hurt you? No, I had too much of this cake. He already knew that he had too much. Because he had like a chas v'shalom, lehavdi, like an animal, especially like a dog. Doesn't have, whatever you give the dog to eat, it will eat. You give him a little portion, it will eat it. It's not going to come and tell you can have a seconds. But if you put a huge portion, the dog will eat the whole thing. Doesn't have control, where's the limit? So a child doesn't have the level of that. It's not only a child, by the way. We only get the level of that when we hit the age of 20. So even teenagers, they don't have that. Only in the age of 20, a person, if he's worthy, will receive this level of that, and then the person can start really functioning the right way in this world. So we totally sidetracked. Baruch Hashem, it's a good sidetracking. But where I started, and we'll finish the shiur and then we'll do some questions and go more into it. But where I originated is that our motion is constantly to find some type of pleasure. This is where I wake up in the morning, I'm right away already thinking of my coffee. And what cookie am I going to eat with my coffee? And what should I wear today? I go into, that's why religion made my life very easy. Black and white. And that's it. Before I was religious, my closet was like a shop of designers. All the designers, all the colors, everything. My Yetzer Hara was in clothes. The shoe has to match the cuffling and the tie has to match this, and everything was... I would walk into the closet in the morning, what am I going to wear today? Should I wear this? Should I wear this? Should I wear... No, blue is not the day. Today is the day for green. Religion made my life very easy. White shirt, black suit, that's it. Because I don't have now this ta'ava of how am I satisfying my ego right now by being dressed like a model and showing to the world I have money and I'm wearing an Armani shirt and a Hugo Boss pants. I don't have this desire for the pleasure. What's the pleasure here? To walk down the street and everybody telling me, wow, you look beautiful, you look amazing, where did you get the suit? So this is one type of pleasure, the pleasure I gave before, an example with the rogalach, with the cookie. Pleasures can come in many different ways. Some people, their pleasure is to get 20 compliments that day. Wow, you look so great, where'd you get these shoes? So I had this cuckoo when before I was religion, that I constantly, if I would have a microscopic dot of dirt on my suit, I would lose it, I would go out of my vessel. So the point is that our nature is to constantly target pleasures. And if I don't have this pleasure, then I'm not happy. If I'm not happy, then I'm sad. If I'm sad, then I have a void. And if I have this void, it will start birthing all this anger all the time. Because I don't have enough money to buy this nice thing, and I don't have enough of this, and I don't this, and this person did that, and this person did this. So the wellspring of negativity that is building inside of me is just anger. And this all originates from one thing, and that is called ego. I know you don't like the word ego, but we said we're going to call it yeshut. But the point is that if I have a big ego, it will birth a lot of anger, and this will come from only a lack of emunah, not having enough emunah. If I have a lot of emunah, everything is good, nothing bothers me. And the real happiness is only when I'm very, very humble. That's why you see the greatest tzaddikim, that they're constantly happy, is only because they're very humble and they're not expecting anything. If I'm extremely humble, I don't have any expectations. You give me now a flower, wow, a flower! Because I don't have any expectations. But if I have expectations from the world, you owe me, you have to tell me this, you have to do it for me, then 90% of these expectations will not happen. Then I get disappointed, and I get upset, and I get frustrated, and I get annoyed. So it all boils down to one circle, is where it's coming, where I'm deriving my energy from. Now if I'm working on my emunah on one side, I'm taking this anger, I have to take this anger, it's an emotion, it's a sense of my nefesh, I cannot get rid of it. But if I direct it to kedusha, to holiness, then what I birth out from the inside is not anger, is a positive anger. Anger can be also positive. And I told you one example out of many, that I can be very upset at my Yetzer Hara, that he made me late for a class, or he made me not go to pray, and so forth. So what I want to take from this class, and what I want to concentrate on the month of Tevet, is that I want to refine my anger, I want to reduce my anger, I want to now able to recognize where this anger in me is coming from, whether it's coming from lack of emunah, whether it's coming from too much of an ego, whether it's coming from too many expectations. Who's making me angry? Is it my wife? Is it my kids? Is it my neighbor? Is it a fly that lands on me? What is making me angry? If you get upset because a fly landed on you, then you know that you are in a very high level of anger. A fly should not get you upset. Some people, I see that when something touches them, they totally go out of their balance. So this is the month to really reflect, to look inside me, is where is this anger coming from? How am I reducing it, and where am I directing it to? B'ezrat Hashem, if we focus on that, and then already will prepare me for the next month, the month of Shvat. Shvat is the month of birth, of rebirth, of growth. That's where we celebrate Tu B'Shvat. It's the month that everything starts blooming and growing. And if I work on myself, we'll do a class next month about Shvat, then I go into the month of happiness, of Adar. And after that, the month of Nisim, of Nisan, and B'ezrat Hashem, from there we march into the Geula. And Bemet, what we really need to take from this short introduction class about the month is, what do I really need to apply this month? And I hope you're going to use your notes that you're taking, is how every day I'm applying what I learned into my month. Because I have a whole month to refine myself, to polish this attribute and to utilize it to a very, very positive place. Bezrat Hashem will wish you a beautiful, happy, and successful month.